Anyway, my name is David Cohen. I am very fortunate to be on the Environmental Commission, along with my fellow awesome environmental commissioners, who I'm going to introduce. But I first want to just put in a plug for the commission itself. This is probably among the most active commissions in the city of Calabasas. And we do this from our heart, the five of us. And I just want to let everybody know there's a lot of things going on and a lot of opportunities for people to get involved. We hope everyone will join us. There are subcommittees on native plants, climate action, water conservation, the public forum that we're on today, Arbor Day, Earth Day. Those programs Treya will be speaking about later on in the program. There's a subcommittee for the student recycling drawing contest, which you see those every year on our awesome city calendars, the students that submit their recycling posters. There are subcommittees for the Pumpkin Festival, for the student members, for the green business and sustainable homes, for the batteries. There is so much going on, and we need more people like you to get involved. So please get a hold of one of us, and without any further ado, I'm going to let you know who the us is. I'm first going to have you stand up. Whitney Schwartz. Beth Jagtiani, Larissa Byrne, and J.C. Chalene. And I want to give a special thank you to Beth and J.C. for all their efforts in planning the event this year. My name again is David Cohen. I'm the chair of the commission this year, and like I say, inviting everyone to get involved. I'm also really, really pleased to have the dignitaries that we have here tonight. And before I introduce some of the people involved in the city council, I want to introduce some of the staff members who do so much for us on this commission and frankly for our city. We have a tremendously beautiful city, and we've won awards which I could speak about the whole evening. But it's these people who behind the scenes do so much for us. And so I want to real quickly just introduce Treya Bezdesny. And Treya was there meeting with us during COVID when it was when you could really only do things virtually. So Environmental Commission obviously is outdoors. Curtis Castle, who's just joined the group. We are so excited to have Curtis with us. Tremendous amount of experience that he brings from his previous post, and there's a lot of exciting things happening under his lead. And Tatiana Holden. So Tatiana, thank you for being here. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce some of the city council members who showed up. Lastly, I'll introduce the mayor. But first, I'm going to introduce the past mayor, David Shapiro. And I want to introduce one of my neighbors and future mayor, Ed Alarcon. Also a past mayor, Dennis Washburn, is having. Thank you very much. There are also some amazing people from the booths outside. You'll learn more about those later on. But now, without any further ado, I do want to introduce our wonderful mayor, Alicia Weintraub. I actually knew your name.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody tonight, and thank you so much to the amazing Environmental Commission for putting this event on and working with our incredible public works staff. We're so fortunate to be able to have events like this. A few weeks ago, we did one on public safety, and tonight we're doing one to focus on environmental issues. And what's really great about Calabasas is it's not just what you learn in here tonight, it's that the city wants you to be involved outside of this meeting, outside of this forum on environmental issues. So you'll hear tonight about how you can get involved by participating in workshops, in tours, attending meetings, and just sharing your feedback and ideas with the commission and council. So we're so thrilled that everyone is here, and I won't take any more time. I will turn it back to David. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia Weintraub. You know, I didn't even mention, but one of the things that's really awesome about our commission is that we have student members as well. And the student participation from the high schools, and I was mentioning all the kids that contribute to our calendar through the recycling poster. We have over 1,200 students that contribute pictures for recycling. And you know, when they learn young, they continue to do it throughout. And when kids get to the high school age, it's very competitive, but we have 2 spots on the Environmental Commission. And one of our student commissioners is here, actually staffing a booth. Noah! Noah Shapiro. Noah Shapiro's out there. And make sure you check out the booth out there. The students do a great job. They sell succulents to raise money for Roots and Shoots and some of the other student organizations. There's Noah in the back of the room. Without any further ado, let's jump right into the presenters so we can all start learning more. First, we're going to have speakers from Heal the Bay. We've got Annie Lopez, who's a volunteer and programs manager. And we've got Crystal Barajas, who's the Senior Community Science and Outreach Coordinator. Take it away.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Annie and this is Crystal. We're super happy to be here with y'all tonight and to be able to share a little bit more about what Heal the Bay does. And to get us started, I will pass it off to Crystal.
Thanks, Annie. As I was introduced, my name is Crystal. I'm our Senior Community Science and Outreach Coordinator at Heal the Bay. I work on our MPA Watch program, monitoring our MPAs not far from here in Malibu and also in Palos Verdes. And then also working on our angler outreach program, educating pier and shoreline anglers on the risks when consuming DDT and PCB and mercury contaminated fish, which we'll talk more about later. And also some policy work on all the different things that we'll cover today. But for those of you who don't know Heal the Bay, we like to always include our mission statement, which is Heal the Bay is an environmental nonprofit dedicated to protecting our coastal watersheds and making them safe, healthy, and clean. We do this through education, science, policy, and outreach. Thank you. And something else that we like to always do every time we do a presentation, since our work does take place on Indigenous land, we like to say that we are on Indigenous land, and even anywhere in LA or in California, even the country, no matter where you are, we are on Indigenous land, and we'd like to acknowledge Heal the Bay's presence on Tongva land. We would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. If you don't already know whose land you are on, please check out native-land.ca to find out. A link to this website can be shared on our website. You can find it, and we like to acknowledge that it doesn't cover all tribes. So if you want to look in further, you could dig in if you don't see something that pops up when you try to find or put your info on. And then I could pass it over to Annie, which will cover the first portion of our presentation.
Awesome, thanks Crystal. So being at Heal the Bay, as Crystal mentioned, a lot of the work what we do is based on like water policy and how we can keep our waterways safe, healthy, and clean. So we just want to give you a little bit of like context into the watershed that are here in LA County. So the 3 main big ones are the Santa Monica Bay watershed, the Los Angeles River watershed, and the San Gabriel River watershed. Being here in Calabasas, part of it is like right on the edge at the very top of the Santa Monica Bay watershed. But a watershed is basically an area that drains, of land that drains into a common body of water. So if you think about the natural topography, the land is shaped into like peaks and valleys, and all that water will at some point make its way from the very top in the mountains all the way to the ocean. So that's really water is the way that connects all of us together, whether we live inland or we live on the coastline. We're really all connected through the variety of ways that the water makes its way out to the ocean. So in a natural environment, most of the water would soak through a natural surface and become a source of groundwater. But living in like LA County, there's a lot of like pavement and concrete. So what that does is that it doesn't infiltrate the ground anymore. Instead, it gets flushed out to the ocean. As a lot of you may see in your community, there's different, like it starts with the gutters, right? In LA County, when the city was barely starting to be developed, there was huge flooding problems, which wasn't great for a city that wanted to grow and expand. So the Army Corps of Engineers over the years channelized the LA River, which was great. It prevented flooding, but that also means that now all the water is immediately being flushed out into the ocean. And what does that do with like the trash and stuff? It also carries all of that out into the ocean. The storm drain is about a 5,000-mile network of open channels, catch basins, and drain pipes. So they collect runoff from the streets and flush it out into the ocean. And it's basically unfiltered because our sewage systems and our storm drain systems are two separate entities, so they're not connected. So the sewage is filtered, and as opposed to the runoff, where it's just making its way down to the ocean and impacting the wildlife and our water quality for us that are recreating in those areas. So you can see in the pictures here, there's no place for filtration or treatment, and unlike other areas of the county, it'll be carried straight through and eventually make its way either into the Santa Monica or the San Pedro Bays. And some of the common pollutants that our team has identified are things like trash and plastic, metals like lead and copper, pesticides, oils, DDT, PCBs, feces, fertilizers, different types of bacteria and pathogens. So these are common pollutants that tend to concentrate in bodies of water, such as the storm drains, the creeks, the rivers, and then they will be flushed out to the ocean. And they impact our ecosystem, but they also impact our health, especially for example, after a big storm event. Gila Bay generally recommends that you stay away from the beach for maybe 3 to 5 days, just because the contamination levels are pretty high at the beaches because of all the runoff that's being released into the ocean. So these are just some of the common pollutants to keep in mind when you're visiting bodies of water. And Crystal will talk about some of the tools that Gila Bay has that you can use to keep yourself safe.
Yes, so is it safe to swim? We're always wondering, how do we know, how do we figure out? Annie was talking about those pollutants. When it's raining during a storm event, it brings all that rainwater and trash, gunk, and those pollutants that we mentioned. And then we're like, okay, is it clean? When is it over? So Gila Bay actually does what we call, it's known as our beach report card, which actually gets water quality samples, and we actually test for Andrococcus, a bacteria, basically how much poop is in the water, and lets people know if it's safe to swim or not. So there's actually this app that gives an easy letter grade that you can Google the beach close to you. You can put Toes Beach, Playa del Rey, and it'll give you an easy letter grade for you to figure out if it's A, safe to swim in. If it's F, then probably not recommended to go swimming in. And then we also tell people, and I said, swim 100 yards away from a flowing storm drain just because it's closer to the contamination source. Wait 3 days. And then another thing we do is also, I think the other part was supposed to say, is it safe to eat, maybe, for the fish slide? So some of the work that I do is on the Angler Outreach Program, where we actually go onto the piers and tell them what fish are not recommended to eat just because of those exposure to those pollutants. And we do that all along all the way from Santa Monica all the way to Seal Beach at 8 different piers. And there's actually a list, and there's tip cards that we could pass around of 5 fish that it's not recommended to eat just because there's a big contamination in Palos Verdes from the 60s to the 80s in the Superfund site. Y'all don't know about that. It's still there, and it's not going away, unfortunately, because DDT is a pesticide that's not breaking down. And so that issue is still there. What is Gila Bay doing about it? We're actually going and telling people, hey, please don't eat these 5 because these are the fatty ones that it's still storing those chemicals in them, or they're eating the little fish that, and then through bioaccumulation, those aren't safe. So we're trying to make it so that you know if it's safe to swim in, and we also are letting you know what is safe to eat from the bay. And thanks, Annie. So for the next one is our core values. So what we do it through science. Since we have to back it up, whether that's advocacy or outreach, we do science, research, inclusion. We're committed to equity in the environment. We believe in beach access and safe environment for all. Impact, we embrace change, motivate action, and inspire innovation. Trust, we take our role as the region's water watchdog seriously. This is mission-driven work, and we care a lot about public health, and also the environment and our oceans and watersheds.
In 1985, when Heal the Bay was founded, the biggest source of pollution in the Santa Monica Bay was undertreated sewage from the wastewater treatment plant.
And there we were out on the beach with this bullhorn now. That source of contamination, the sewage treatment plant, is now in compliance with the Clean Water Act.
Unfortunately, that didn't solve all of our problems in the bay.
Lots of issues that the ocean is facing right now directly impact us as humans.
Climate change, plastic pollution can cause dramatic disruptions.
DDT,
Hundreds of tons of contaminated DDT.
poisoning the fish,
Sea star populations on the West Coast just disappeared.
and we're also in the middle of the 6th mass extinction.
Overfishing, ocean acidification,
Harmful algal bloom.
toxic chemicals,
Fish contamination.
decimating wild populations.
It's a large-scale problem.
These things are scary. But I have hope that we're going to rise to meet these challenges because we know that we have the tools that we need.
I'm a big believer in science drives policy change, and policy change leads to action. And we're doing an amazing job at it.
Heal the Bay is focusing on 4 core issue areas: public health, climate change, biodiversity, and equity and environmental justice.
Southern California's Beach Report Card is out tonight.
Heal the Bay's annual report card,
Giving letter grades to California beaches.
The Beach Report Card and River Report Cards are tools for the public, so you can check those grades and see if it's safe to go in the water or not.
Estos 5 pececitos son los más contaminados con DDT, PCB y mercurio.
Our angler outreach team has cards in multiple languages showing the anglers what fish is going to be safe for them to bring home to their families.
El programa de Heal the Bay se ha corrido desde el año 2003 y hasta la actualidad hemos educado a más de 180,000 pescadores desde nuestros inicios.
This is Heal the Bay Aquarium. This is right underneath the Santa Monica Pier.
This is a place where we get to educate over 10,000 kids a year. Over 70% of those kids are coming from Title I schools. Many of them have never seen the beach before.
Teaching them about these local species, giving them the experience of interacting with them.
The kids fall in love with these animals. The look on their face when they get to touch a shark.
It's the experience that creates that sense of empathy. And that's what makes us so important.
Water connects us all, right? It's like one of the few things that really connects every community.
Heal the Bay is working to make sure that our communities are adapting to climate change in a way that is equitable and affordable for all Angelinos.
We know that the work we're doing is effective because we see change happen. And we work to pass policies or laws.
We've helped to pass Measure W.
Measure W for recycling rainwater.
And I'm so proud of the success around plastic pollution.
The phase out of single-use plastics starts to
Seeing those successes is really rewarding.
We're up against some massive challenges. But I'm hopeful because I work with an incredible group of scientists and policy experts. We're the ones you want at the table to work on these issues because we've done it before.
And in many ways, Heal the Bay is magical, right? We show up every day knowing that we can make positive change for everyone, every community.
And when you start small within communities and you expand and expand, that's how you get global action.
Heal the Bay is here to make sure that future generations have all the opportunities to explore the things that make Southern California so special.
Yeah, so we definitely love showing that video, give a little bit of context into why we do the work that we do, and Heal the Bay at the very core of it is volunteers. Without all of the volunteer support over the years, we wouldn't be able to accomplish our mission and move that mission forward. So we're super excited about presenting some of our volunteer programs. Here at Heal the Bay, we have kind of 2 different categories to fit everyone's schedules and everybody's availability and offer a variety of different ways that you can get involved. So we have what we call our non-recurring opportunities. So these are like standalone, like there's no other commitment other than like coming to one of these events. And those include things like Nothing But Sand, which are public beach cleanup that happens the 3rd Saturday of every month. We have our Adopt the Beach, which are self-guided beach cleanups that you can do individually, in a group. We have special events like our Trash Bowl, and we have the Gala, which is our biggest fundraising night of the year that we hold down at the Jonathan Club every year in May. And then we have our recurring volunteer opportunities, which these require a little bit more of a long-term commitment. So these are things like volunteering at the aquarium and helping with animal husbandry, helping take care of our animals, making sure that our exhibits and our facility life support is in working order. We have our beach captains, which help run all of our beach cleanups and help making sure that everyone is prepared for conducting a safe cleanup. We have community science with Crystal. They do MPA watch and collect valuable data for the state of California and monitoring the MPAs and how they are working. And then we have outreach, which is our Speakers Bureau department, and they're the ones that spread the word throughout LA County. So whether it's sharing information about like a specific topic like ocean pollution, or it's providing opportunities for folks to conduct a safe cleanup out on the beach. So these are a little bit more long-term, but they're great ways to get involved on a recurring basis. And to start us off, to give you a little bit more context, Crystal will give you more info on MPA Watch.
Yeah, this is a real fun one. I'm a little biased because this is my program, the MPA Watch program. But before I talk about MPA Watch, what are MPAs, or what does that even stand for? An MPA is a marine protected area. They essentially act like underwater national parks, like the same way you can't do certain things at Yosemite, kind of can't do some consumptive activities at marine MPAs, like oil drilling or fishing. And so there are 4 MPAs that you can see. There's 2 in Malibu. That's the Point Dume SMCA and the Point Dume SMR. There's different types of restrictions. Just like one, it's absolutely you can't take even seashells. One, it's like you can. It's very specific. Like you could spearfish like 2 with this instrument or something like that. But for the most part, you can't. No consumptive activity. And then there's 2 also in Palos Verdes, and they're state marine conservation areas, and then a no-take state marine conservation area, which essentially acts exactly like a state marine reserve. The only reason why it's a no-take SMCA is because it allows for a little bit of scientific take, and the reason why they allowed that one there is because of that Superfund site of that DDT that constantly needs some research and take from it. And so to become or what MPA Watch really is, it's when we put these on a map, MPAs, we can't just expect them to work. We gotta figure out, we need to monitor them. And we wanna monitor how are people using MPAs, because the environment is gonna be fine without us. We wanna figure out how are people interacting with that space. Is there a lot of illegal fishing there? Is there a lot of recreation there that we could put more outreach materials on? We want to know how are the people using it. So then when we have that human dimension, and then once we have the data from our eDNA events, which I'll talk a little bit more, we could match it and figure out how they connect. And so to become an MPA Watch volunteer, there are some requirements. There's a volunteer orientation that you have to attend, and then there's a training. So I always tell people, if you love long walks on the beach and people watching, this is the best program for you, because you're out there, you're doing research, and so we train you. We train you on how to collect the data that we need, which is pretty much walking from one point to another point in a straight line and tallying people from the mean high tide line and 3 miles to the MPA. It's really fun. I love it. It's the most flexible program. As long as the tides allow it and there's light out, you can go do your survey. And you have to be 18, and then a background check. And the training consists of 2 parts. It's a classroom training, which gives you all the background on what MPAs are, also how to input your data, because that's another part of the volunteer position, and then also the field training part, which is us actually going out there on the beach and showing you how to do it. Basically, so what eDNA is environmental DNA. So everything that's living leaves traces of DNA, whether that's like mucus, scales, tissue from it. And so to monitor MPAs, we want to be able to check the biodiversity of them. So the way that we do that is actually get a sample of water, and we're actually able to extract the DNA and be like, there's this amount of fish and whatnot, which is really cool, because before the way that we used to do it was you'd have to scuba dive and literally count how many things you see. So it's a cool science that we can actually get water, extract the DNA back at the lab, and monitor the biodiversity. So then within our MPAs, we're collecting it because we want to be able to figure out, hopefully, there's more biodiversity in the MPAs rather than outside. And so we actually work with a lab at UCLA that is researching this. And so we train you exactly like how you saw in the video and how to collect the samples. We do monthly events, and they're usually the last Saturday of the month here in Malibu, so very close by. It's very fun. You do get wet, not like wet, but like knee wet. And it's fun research experience, and you don't have to attend all of them. You could just attend one if you'd like. But you could talk to me a little bit more after if you'd like more information. And then, so the next one, I could talk about this one. This is our Outreach and Speakers Bureau program, which Annie talked about. This is if you want to be like a science communicator and science like educator, this is a perfect opportunity to learn about that. And so we actually have our training coming up. It's a lot of training because we want you to know what you need to talk about. And this has different topics about like ocean pollution, know the flow, to communicate to people how we actually get our water. The DDT contamination, we train you on how to be able to communicate the science and the outreach that we want people to learn. Training dates they're all, I believe, the Saturday in March. That's March 9, 16, 23rd, and 30th. And basically, if a school or like y'all came out, somebody reaches out to us and saying, hey, we need somebody to talk about this topic, you'll actually already know, and you can actually go do pretty much what I'm doing here today, talking to you all about what we do, or if it's like a topic, then you would give that talk too. The next one is we also do Club Heal the Bay. So for those of you who know people that are in school right now, in high school and even college, or middle school, high school, and college, you could create actually a club that's Club Heal the Bay, that you'll basically be like running your own little tiny Heal the Bay org within your school, and you could do like cleanups, you can help at different like events that we have. You pretty much can start your club, and it looks really good on your resume. And beach programs. So this is, Heal the Bay is really known for our big beach cleanups, and so we need beach captains. Beach captains are pretty much people that help us give the safety talk portion of a cleanup, help us set up like all those buckets, be able to help us with the data collection, because we don't just go on the beach and pick up trash, we actually collect the data of the trash that we pick up. So then that when we go to policy, we can actually tell people like, hey, there's like 1,000 straws at the beach, we need to get rid of these. And we have the data to back that up once we make those changes, which is really cool. And a beach captain, they help us at our Nothing But Sands monthly beach cleanups, or on our SOS, we love acronyms, that's Suits on the Sands cleanup. So that when a big corporate partner wants to reach out to Heal the Bay and say, we want to help for a day, and they pay us a lot of money to be able to clean up, and we need beach captains to help that too, to help run those events. And then we also have our big coastal cleanup day. If y'all didn't know, Heal the Bay pretty much leads LA County's coastal cleanup day, which is like all throughout LA County. We do a huge cleanup, not just the beaches, but also inland, and it's all throughout LA. And we need beach captains to help run all the different sites. I think last year we had like 50 sites, yeah, which is a lot. And we collected a lot of trash, like a lot. And then the training for that, I think is, I forgot when that one is.
Nothing But Sand is gonna be right before the beach cleanup.
Perfect. So next Nothing But Sands before the beach cleanup, that's, I believe, the 16th, the third Saturday of every month. And then I'll let Annie talk about our aquarium opportunities.
Awesome, thanks Crystal. And the aquarium is one of our most popular options for folks to volunteer at. We're located right underneath the Santa Monica Pier, so we're a little tucked away, but it's a really great space, educational center for schools, guests from all over the county, from different countries that come visit us and learn more about how the local animals are impacted, how they can take part in protecting our local ecosystems. This program is the one that requires a little bit more commitment out of all of them. But we have 3 departments, which are the aquarists, which is animal husbandry. We have education department. They lead all of our field trips and summer camps, spring camps, winter camps. And then we have our public programs department. They do all of the interpretation with guests that come in and visit the aquarium. So if you're interested in like behind the scenes, taking care of the animals, aquaristing is a great opportunity for that. If you're interested in more of like the public speaking, education, interpretation, education and public programs are a great way to get more experience in that field. I personally have a personal bias towards public programs because I feel like you get a little bit of both worlds. You get to interact with the animals that are in the tide pools, touch tanks, and the shark touch tank, but you also get that interaction with folks who visit, and you get to share what you're passionate about and also share how they can take part in protecting our local ecosystems. The requirements and commitments for this program are to commit to a weekly or bi-weekly shift on for a minimum of 3 months, and the options usually run anywhere from between like 11:30 and 4:30. It's 3-hour shifts. We can be flexible on a case-by-case basis. We want to provide as many opportunities as possible, but we do ask that you commit for a minimum of 3 months. You have to be 14 years or older, 15 for our animal husbandry volunteers, complete a background check, and attend our aquarium volunteer training. It's going to be happening on Wednesday, March 27th from 6 to 7. It'll be a virtual training. But the aquarium is a really great experience to spend some time out on the weekend or on a weekday. We only open Wednesdays through Sundays for the public. So those are great opportunities to, if you're looking for something to do on a weekday, we're always available for volunteer shifts. And yeah, overall, that kind of wraps up all of our volunteer programs. But just to kind of give you a quick recap, these are our recurring and non-recurring opportunities. If you're looking for a one-time volunteer opportunity, you can join us at Nothing But Sand Beach Cleanup. You can do Adopt the Beach, special events, corporate cleanups, and giving. If you're looking for something a little bit more long-term, more consistent, you can do the Aquarium, Speakers Bureau, MPA Watch, Beach Captains, and Club Heal the Bay. And our next volunteer orientation is going to be in 2 weeks on Thursday, March 14th, and it'll be at the aquarium from 6:30 to 8. And that wraps up our presentation. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, guys. Thanks very much, Annie and Crystal. That was great, and they'll be around for questions later. We're going to go into the next presentation. I just want to mention, because they mentioned that like the aquarium's in Santa Monica. So you might think, well, that's not really here. But one of the things you're going to hear from Treya later is it really is here. Our creek cleanups, what's going on with the Ridge Dam, we are connected to the bay. And so just like our next speaker is going to speak about how we're connected to the mountains and how we've had presentations by Poison Free Malibu. And the reality is we are all part of the same environment. And so it's so beautiful and so wonderful that we've got all these community partners. So without any further ado, I'm so pleased to introduce from California Wildlife Center, Jasmine Regalado, who's a volunteer coordinator.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And, we went over the beings that are in the water. Now we'll kind of go over the beings that are sometimes in the water and most of the time not. So we'll go ahead and get started there. I'll talk a little bit about, who we are, what we do, and how you can get involved. So we've been around since 1998, so that's over 25 years now, here located in Calabasas. But we obviously are on land that has been here long before. Just like Crystal and Annie were mentioning, we are on native Chumash and Tongva land and want to acknowledge that. The space that we're on, we don't technically own the land that we're on. We operate under a memorandum of understanding with the California State Parks, as well as operating under rules from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So we're this private, non-government organization working under state rules and federal guidelines. So it's kind of this hodgepodge of everything, but nonetheless, it allows us to do the work that we do, which is to rescue, rehabilitate, and release California native wildlife. That is our entire mission statement. We want to bring in these animals from LA County. We are LA County's premier, fancy wildlife rehab hospital, and we bring them in for members of the public that are generous enough to be able to donate their time to come and drop off these animals to help take care of these animals, and we put in the work to be able to release these animals. We field over 35,000 calls every single year and bring in anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 animals into our facility. that we put our resources into, and everything from little itty bitty baby birds to big marine mammals. So we've got a whole menagerie going on there. We do operate with only a paid staff of about 16 people, which means our volunteer and internship base is huge. They are the reason we are so successful every single year, and the reason that we're able to release hundreds of animals every single year. So it's really fantastic. So we're what's considered a generalist facility. Now, if you think about a lot of rehab facilities for animals and rescues and such, a lot of them focus on kind of specific animals, specific types of animals. You've got the Ojai Raptor Center. You've got the International Bird Rescue down in San Pedro that focuses on water birds, pelagic birds. You've got the Marine Mammal Care Center that focuses on marine mammals. We take them all. So we, through that, we're able to take in a lot more animals every single year, in really just because we want to give every single one of these animals a second chance. And so with that, we're also one of the only facilities that can rehabilitate fawns, so baby deer, as well as bobcats, as well as coyotes. So we are able to have these connections with other organizations throughout LA County, and they can bring the animals to us where we can take care of them from there. And organizations helping each other out is a huge part. The interconnectedness of all of it. We were super duper happy to actually partner with Heal the Bay for one of the Coastal Cleanup Day. That's what it was. I was like, what is the name? But that happens at, every September. We went down to the beach. We were close to Zuma. Brought out some of our volunteers. Some of their volunteers came out, and it was a great time. And so it really is super important to be able to have these relationships and build these relationships through events like this. So we take in a variety of animals, and they come from all over. Like I said, we are the rehabilitation facility for LA County, which means we will take in any animal from that area. And as we all know, LA County is huge, and we're located at the very, very, very western end, practically bordering Ventura County. And so we actually, while I said the majority of the animals that come to us, members of the public are actually the ones who bring them in. Like I said, we operate with a paid staff of 16 people. Now that would be a lot of driving for picking up animals all over the county. So we have a wonderful working relationship with LA County and LA City animal shelters that are able to respond to a lot of those house calls if somebody can't make it out to us. If somebody gives us a call from Santa Clarita, it's pretty far from Calabasas. People work, people have a lot of things they need to do. So by partnering with these organizations, by partnering with them, we're able to have animal control be able to go out, safely secure these animals, or even if it's an animal type that we don't necessarily want a member of the public handling, like a coyote, like a bobcat. We don't want to put the public in any danger, and we want to make sure the animal's staying safe as well. So they're able to go and get these animals, safely contain them, and we have transport volunteers, one of our several volunteer departments that operate for CWC. And basically their entire thing is that they receive contact from us that we have an animal at one of these shelters. They drive over and they bring it to us, because the faster that we can get that animal to us, the faster we can get it its proper care. We're super grateful for the animal shelters to be able to go and get these animals, but it's not necessarily their job or in their training to take care of the red-tailed hawk when all they've been trained on is the dogs and the cats. And so we don't necessarily want to put that on them. We're already super thankful for them being able to take their time to go and get these animals. Our volunteers get them, take them to us, and we take care of them from there. But this is just a little chart to show you where some of our animals came from over the last year, but this is by no means exhaustive. They come from all over, and part of our release is actually to take this data and look at every single animal that comes in, and we actually try to release these animals back into the areas that they came from, especially because a lot of the animals that we get are adults or older juveniles that already have their territories going, they've got their friends, they've got their family, and so to be able to get them back to give them the best chance of success, once they get released, we like to take them back to those areas when we can. Like I said, we're a generalist facility. We actually can accept over 150 different species of animals, and that's everything from our marine mammals that we bring in to patients that are older that go into our intensive care unit, our ICU, to the little itty bitties that go into our neonatal intensive care unit. So I'll go into a little bit more detail on each one. So our marine mammal department. This department essentially goes out to respond to calls on the beaches of Malibu. So Malibu is essentially our territory to go and assess any calls from members of the public if they see something going on that might be of concern for not just marine mammals, but virtually any animal that you might see on the beach. And so we go respond to these calls and assess them, and we take care of marine mammal patients in-house between the months of December, late December, to about June, July. We focus primarily on our California sea lions as well as our northern elephant seals. But like I said, we will respond to any call from the beaches out there. The main reason why we are the ones to call for anything that's out there in Malibu is because a lot of these animals are protected. They have protected status, you know, I'm sure as you guys are well aware of too. But we also don't want a member of the public having to shove a northern elephant seal into the Toyota Corolla and drive it up to the mountains here. So we have specially trained staff and volunteers that go and respond to these calls out on the beaches. They go and make a plan to make sure that they're staying safe, that the animal is staying safe, just because a lot of times these animals, they strand, which is what it's called when you see an animal on the beach that's not looking too hot. And they make up a plan to make sure that they can safely go and get that animal, because a lot of times when these animals are not feeling well and they strand, they don't necessarily want to be where people are. So they're not going to be located just off the Zuma parking lot. They are often in these hard to get to alcoves and hard to get to spaces. And so, you know, the team is specially trained to be able to go and get those animals safely, bring them back to our facility, and from there we can stabilize them, we can make sure that they're okay, and then from there forward, you know, assess if they're going to stay with us for their rehabilitative care, or if we're going to be transferring them over to a different facility for them to be taken care of. Our ICU focuses on more of our adult and kind of older juvenile patients. So these patients are here because something went wrong. You know, they were okay and they got hit by a car. They hit a window. They ingested poison. They got shot. We've seen it all. They got caught by a cat, caught by a dog. And so these animals, they come into that department because they need that rehabilitative care. They need to be given their medications. They need to be given that wound care, that supportive care. And from there, we're basically just getting them back to where they started before that incident happened, and then we can get them back out into their neighborhoods. And so we also bring in a variety of species, anything from songbirds that have something going on to raptors. That's your birds of prey, that's your hawks, that's your falcons, to mesopredators like our bobcats, like our coyotes, like our foxes. Like I said, we're also the only facility that can rehabilitate mule deer fawns, so we bring them in as little fawns, take care of them until they're old enough to be independent, release the gates, and then have them go. And then they become part of the deer community that you see driving, you know, when you're driving down Las Virgenes. But the animals in here, like I said, are mostly adults, and the neonatal intensive care unit focuses on the little babies. So we bring in animals at virtually any stage of life. And the neonatal intensive care unit is focused really solely for the supportive care of baby animals. So that's neonatal and fledgling birds, and that's neonatal and juvenile mammals. The mammals that we focus on are typically your Virginia opossums and your fox squirrels. And then the birds, it's typically songbirds that we focus on as well. And here, these animals are here because they, for whatever reason, don't have their parents anymore. And so, you know, whether it was that their parents, you know, died and the baby survived, they got separated from their parents somehow in some big storm, like maybe, you know, any of the storms that we've been having recently, or it, you know, a well-intentioned person thought they needed help when the parents were actually nearby, and now we can't reunite them. Whatever the case is, they're with us now, and what we focus on is making sure that these animals get fed on a timely manner, get cleaned, Because once they come into our care, they are 100% our responsibility. And so we've got a lot of mouths to feed. And so, we're trying to emulate what the parents essentially would be doing for these babies. And so you have birds that are eating every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes, and they will let you know it. They will not let you forget it. And so, it really is so fulfilling to be able to bring in these itty-bitty little things that look like jelly beans and to be able to provide them that care and really see them grow and put them in with species of their own kind. They learn from each other. They play with each other. And, when we assess them for release, we make sure that they are who they are. If it's a sparrow, if it's a finch, we want to make sure that these animals are remaining wild animals. That is how they came. That is how they will leave. They will not be, anybody's pet. They're not domestic animals. And from there, we find locations throughout LA, kind of based off of more or less the average of where these animals came from, and release them as groups, as kind of their family that we've created for them. So it really is an incredible experience that people get to be a part of. It's an intimate connection compared to the ICU, where the adult animals already know humans. They kind of already know what we're about, versus these animals, that are not super scared of us yet, but we'll get them there. And so we do provide, a wide range of different care for our patients. We put all of our resources into helping our patients from every single angle. And we are, in our tiny but mighty staff of 16, we're fortunate enough to have a full-time veterinarian on staff. And with that comes all the goodies that you get when you have a veterinarian on staff. And so that is better diagnostics to be able to really find out what is going on with these animals in real time. So that's your x-rays, that's your more complex exams, that's being able to look at samples under a microscope, run blood tests, all there at our facility. And that is all stuff that if we didn't have our veterinarian, we would be sending out to third-party labs, a couple days to send that out, get the results, couple days to get those results back. And that is all time that would be being spent with us not knowing what's going on with our patient and us not having a proper care plan for them. We, in addition to being able to run all those diagnostics with our veterinarian, can also perform surgeries there on site. We have a surgical suite where a lot of these cases that are coming in, that surgery can be the matter of life or death for this animal. So rather than having to spend that extra time to call up our buddies at one organization or another, figure out transport, figure out a way to try and get that animal out there, we can do it right then and there within usually a day's notice. Animal husbandry is also a big part of what the staff does, what our volunteers and our interns do as well. So, animal husbandry is everything from feeding the animals the proper diet to making sure that their enclosures are clean. Animal care, I always tell people, and I always say this during orientations, is 90% cleaning and then 10% some of the most amazing stuff ever. And you can, I'm sure you can, relate to that from your pets at home, or even volunteering with dogs and cats. It's the same thing. It's the same poop. And so it really is. While it may not be the most exciting thing to be doing the dishes, doing the laundry, and you're I do this stuff at home. I'm doing this here. It is it is crucial to the success of our patients. Like I said, once we bring them into our care, we're making that decision to bring those animals into our care. And once we do, we're 100% responsible for the well-being of those animals. And so by being able to make sure that these animals have fresh food every single day, fresh water, a clean enclosure to be in, because they can't do this themselves, we are making sure that their rehabilitative progress is at the peak where we want it. And our volunteers, our wonderful base of volunteers, high season, peak season, we'll have 180 plus volunteers that come in on any given time to give care to these animals. We are also a wildlife hotline. Like I said, we field over 35,000 calls every single year, and the majority of that is actually being done by our amazing staff. And we want to be the people that the public calls when they see an animal, a wild animal, that needs help. And while most people, see an animal, they're like, oh my God, this bird just hit my window, what do I do? They might call the shelter sort of thing. We are really trying to, get out in the communities, get out this public engagement so that when they see a wild animal that needs help, they think California Wildlife Center. And has anybody here ever brought an animal to our facility? Oh, thank you, first off, for making the drive out there. Does anyone want to share what they brought in? You can just shout it out.
Hummingbird.
A hummingbird. Oh, some hummingbird babies. I think you raised.
Another bird from the beach.
Okay, yeah, from the beach. And how about anybody else?
Squirrels, I think.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so the way it works is, did you bring something in?
There was a former student member of the Environmental Commission who was a volunteer out there.
Ah, yeah.
She told us about all the different animals that people were bringing.
Yep, yeah. So, like I said, we rely on members of the public to, bring in these animals, and because we need that service from members of the public, it is in our best interest to make sure that we know what's coming in, that we can properly educate members of the public on these different animals. We're not going to put it on you to be like, oh, well, that is a native mourning dove, or that's a non-native European starling. That's what the bird nerds are for, okay? Like that's what we get paid to do. And so we just want to be the resource for the community that they can call, even if you're not sure. You can call and just explain the situation. From there, we can assess the situation and see, is this an animal that we can even accept? Like I said, we focus on California native species. So there are a lot of wildlife species in LA, but not necessarily every single one of them is considered a California native species. And so we do try to educate the public on that. There are a lot of private, usually at-home rehab facilities that can take care of these non-native species, and we have those resources for that. We can better, guide them in the right direction. We can get them that phone number, get them that email, so that they can get in contact with the proper resource. And from there, if it's an animal that we, can accept, does it need to come to us? It's sometimes a person might see a situation where they think the animal has to come in, and sometimes it might not have to, like a baby bird that might be out of its nest, and we can educate those members of the public and tell them, okay, if parents are nearby, then this bird might just be learning how to fly if it's springtime. It's springtime, everybody's being born, everybody's learning how to fly, everybody's falling out of nests. And so from there we can assess, is this animal hurt, or are they just learning how to fly and the parents are still supporting them? Yeah.
So walking the Calabasas Lake, I found an injured bat.
Mm-hmm.
And all animals are animals to me. I made sure I didn't touch it with my hands, put it in a little container, and I called you guys, and you didn't want to have anything to do with it.
So the bats are...
resources for me to call or anything?
The bats are a tough one because of the high potential for rabies that they pose. And CWC doesn't take them just because we have such a huge volunteer base that it's kind of hard to make sure we keep those regulations in place. Usually it is animal control that handles the bats, because they can come in with the proper protective gear to make sure nobody's getting bit or anything, to make sure they can properly contain the bats. But even though we wish we could take them in, it's kind of having to still maintain that level of safety for the general staff and the general volunteer base that we have. But yes.
I just wanted to add that with animal control, they'll destroy the bat. They because they're afraid of the rabies, because we ended up with one that we rescued.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, it was in shock and we were able to let him go, but I had checked with animal control and I
Yeah.
didn't want to leave him.
The California Department of Fish and Wildlife, too, has a line that you can call, and typically they can either A, tell you who to go to, or B, can actually have, might be able to have somebody come out and contain the bat. Yes. Okay, sure. Okay, yeah, definitely happy to answer your question, answer your question, Esther. But basically, wildlife hotlines. The public has questions, we have answers, and we are able to, properly get that information across, because we want to avoid someone making that super far drive from across the county to show up at our door just for it to not be a species that we can accept, or an animal that necessarily didn't have to be in our care in the first place. And so by being able to field these calls and be in contact with and have this line of communication going with members of the public, we can make sure that our technicians are prepared for the animals that are going to be coming through our doors, and to be able to prevent someone making that drive just for us to have to turn them away. And so we make sure that the animal that needs its care gets its care in a timely manner. So our veterinary care, like I said, it's a lot of diagnosing the issues, making these treatment plans, prescribing these medications, administering these medications in a safe way, and then taking care of wound care, making sure that we're doing wraps, wing wraps to stabilize fractures. There's a lot of different injuries that need to be tended to. Our volunteers do take part in virtually all of these things, whether it's restraining the animal so that the wildlife technician or the veterinarian can work on the animal, to actually being the one who assist feeds or medicates the animal, or drawing up the medications for the different animals that are going to need it in that day. So a big variety there, as well as the husbandry portion of it. So preparing animal diets, over 150 different species, they all eat different things. You are by no means required to remember all of that. All of those resources are there for our volunteers that are written up by our veterinarian and hospital manager, so that we're making sure that these animals are getting that consistent care and getting fed their proper nutrition. We are trying to emulate what they would be eating in the wild, honestly, sometimes better quality than what they would be eating in the wild. And so we're making sure that the diets that these animals are receiving have the balanced nutrition that they need. They also receive enrichment. So enrichment is just like what it sounds like. These animals need stimulation, they need play, they need, especially, a lot of our coyotes, a lot of our animals that are crows, our ravens, these animals, they're in essentially a hospital, and they're getting bored from just sitting in, their cage all day, or they're, because they're on bed rest, but you can't, how are you gonna explain that to them? It's like, no, your wing is broken. So we give them these things to mentally stimulate them, because the more that they can do that, the less stressed they're gonna be, and the less stressed that they're gonna be, the quicker that they can get better and they can get released. Like I said, stress reduction, huge, huge part. Not only by providing enrichment, but also that making sure that our staff and our volunteers are taking proper care to make sure that we're not accidentally habituating these animals. So habituation is basically when an animal, a wild animal, no longer is afraid of people. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they like people, it just means that they're not scared of them. And with that can be some pretty horrible consequences. So we want to make sure that these animals are not being habituated, that they remain scared of people, so that when they, when it comes time to release them, that we open the box, they fly away or they run away, they don't say thank you, and they never look back. And that's how we know that we did a job well done. Because the further away that they stay from people, the better their chances are of not winding up in this situation again. Conditioning for release, we basically evaluate all of our patients after we've given them a lot of that supportive care, make sure that our birds are strong enough to fly again, that our coyotes can hunt, that our deer are going to be independent enough to be able to forage and find food on their own. It's all of these things and all of these factors that go into play with these animals being assessed to make sure that they're going to have the best chances of survival for this second opportunity that they're getting. And our wildlife hotline. Being able to, educate the public if they have a question about a certain wild animal. We get a lot of calls where somebody calls and they're like, there's a hawk. And we're like, okay, what's wrong with it? They're like, it's just perched there. I don't know, it's just standing there. And we're like, okay, does it look like it's hurt? They're like, no, it's just there. And we're like, so these hawks exist and they're here in the community, and so it's our chance to be able to tell people that these animals are here too, and this is their home as well. And we, honestly, they were here first, but it's also it's our chance to be able to tell the public that it's okay that these animals are here. They're gonna be here, especially if you live in places where there is a lot more open space. But even middle of the city, you're going to find these animals, And just because you don't see them doesn't mean that they don't exist. And this, we can give the public these tips on how to more peacefully coexist with these animals. And like I said, our pre-admission kind of intervention, making sure that every animal that shows up to our door we're expecting, so that we know that it's an animal type that we can accept, as well as an animal that truly does need our help, so we can put in that time and those resources into it. So beyond taking care of our animals, there is also a lot that we can contribute to. So public health. I don't know how many of you have heard of the highly pathogenic avian influenza, or HPI, or the bird flu that you may have heard about. That was part of the reason why chicken prices were so high. It was a really, really intense disease that is kind of taking a dip now, but it affected millions of birds throughout the world, really, and we were part of that data collection that was going on. Because we are a hospital, because we were taking in these animals as is, these animals could come in with a variety of different, potentially contagious diseases. We are making sure that we're staying safe, but at the same time, if there is an animal that does have this sort of thing, it's our responsibility to make sure that we're in contact with the proper officials to let them know, hey, we have this animal here and it has this, and this is how information is able to get across throughout LA County and beyond, so that we can better prepare and say, okay, case numbers are going up. We're gonna go into this level of safety protocol now to make sure we're staying safe and to make sure that our current patients are staying safe. And the data, of course, obviously goes beyond that into being able to inform the general public as well. Our contributions to biology and ecology, while not every single one of the patients that comes in to our doors can make it, those that don't, we have partnerships with the Natural History Museum to be able to actually donate a lot of these bodies to the Natural History Museum so that they can continue their studies on these species. And a lot of them are actually used in a lot of those dioramas that you see when you go and visit the Natural History Museum. And it's a way that that these animals can still be part of that education and that greater education to the community and to Los Angeles in general. As well as just being able to, like I said, talk with the public and really just kind of quell a lot of that conflict that might be going on, debunk any myths, that somebody might, think is going on. They're like, if I touch that bird, the mom's not going to come back for it. I'm sure many of us have heard that, or or that opossum, it has rabies. They actually mostly don't have rabies. So just little things like that of being able to educate the public and just make sure that they, that we have taken care of that situation and that person can leave with a little bit more knowledge than when they came. So, like I said, we are here for you. We are here for all of Los Angeles. We want to make sure that we are the number that people call, the organization that people think of when they see an animal that might need help, or even if it's just sitting there on your brick wall and you want to tell us about it, that's okay too. So we've got our number there. We have it on our website as well. We also have volunteer opportunities. So we, like I said, have over 200 volunteers that volunteer with us in varying capacities. The majority of our volunteers are involved in that animal care, where they do partake in the animal husbandry and making sure that these animals are receiving their care every single day. Those requirements to be a volunteer, you do have to be over 18. You have to be, able to bring yourself to the center. You have to commit to a weekly shift. So it is a little bit more demanding in terms of that kind of time commitment. And what we ask of our animal care volunteers, because it really is crucial to the success of our patients, that those volunteers are not only present but trained. But we also have, like I said, transport volunteers, where it's not based on a specific time commitment. They are just making themselves available to have their number on a list and okay with us contacting them. And we typically will send out a large group text and say there's an animal at the West Valley shelter that needs to be picked up, and whoever can do it does. Whoever doesn't, It's okay. We're not gonna like hunt you down and be like, you only brought in 3 crows this month. What's going on, you know? Like, it really is just based on, you know, whoever is available. And so that is a really, really great alternative for folks that still want to be involved and still help out these animals, but can't commit to the pretty stringent, you know, weekly shift of the animal care world. And, you know, outside of physically taking care of animals, being able to assist with the wildlife hotline and be that line of communication with members of the public. A lot of people think that's like the easy, boring job, but it's like, no, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of high stress. You have to be the calm presence when someone is calling and freaking out because they see an animal in distress, they're stressed. You know, it's not a great situation to be in. You have to be the one to be able to calmly get that information across and get the correct information across. And so, you know, even for folks that, you know, might not be able to partake in the animal care shifts for whatever reasons, you know, that myriad of reasons why they wouldn't be able to, that's still a huge, huge way that they can contribute their time and still and really, really learn about proper species identification and the proper responses to give to a lot of these common questions that we get. We are also fortunate enough to now have a education department that is very, very new, which is why it's like not even on our slide. But that happened pretty much earlier this year, and now we have, you know, a retrofitted van that we're actually able to go out and come to you and come to events, come to schools, come to camps, really because we are not permitted to be able to have members of the public come and visit the facility at their leisure. Really the only time that people can come to us is when they are dropping off an animal. And so with that, we can essentially bring the center to you. And that is a way that someone can help by, you know, contacting our education department and saying, hey, I want you to come out to our school. I want you to come out to our homeschool group. I want you to come out to our camp. Us being able to go out and be present in the community. I mean, LA is huge. There's a lot of ground to cover. And we want to cover all of it, and we want to, you know, be sure that we can be out there, be a resource, as well as our hospital being a resource for the animals that need it. And so with that, it's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. Like I said, there'll be great opportunities for questions after this for all of our speakers and people in the booths outside as well. We'll talk about that in a little while. But now I'm very excited to introduce my friend, Treya, who has, like I say, who's been a champion for the Environmental Commission for the last several years. And also, while she's coming up, I just want to mention that City Manager popped in, Kindon. Thank you for being here. Another City Council member, James Bazagian, is here. So a lot of representation for the city, and thank you all for attending again. Treya, bring it home. Show us everything going on in this exciting city of Calabasas.
Thank you, Dave. Las Virgenes Creek. You've been hearing about it so far this year. You're going to keep hearing about it because we want to finish this project. So the city has prided itself since its inception on being environmentally forward. And in 2006, they drafted the Creek Master Plan. And our goal with this final project is to complete the Creek Master Plan in regards to Las Virgenes Creek. So this is our creek. Our creek starts up in the Las Virgenes open space, comes through. This is the main part of the project that we but that we've been working on. And then it goes into Malibu State Park. Around here is where it intercepts with Malibu Creek, comes down all the way to Malibu Lagoon. So that's why it really matters what's going on up here because it affects our oceans, it affects our bay. So phases 1 and 2, those are the projects that have already been completed. Phase 1 was completed in 2008, and we took out 3,600 square yard concrete. So now it looks like that. And this is just north of Agora Road. So now, 16 years later, all of the trees are grown. You can barely see the creek because everything's grown back in how it's supposed to. Phase 2 takes place south of Agora Road to Lost Hills Road, and that's where we installed the Las Virgenes Creek Trail. We did a lot of bank stabilization, and we removed a lot of invasive plants. Invasive plants including eucalyptus, Brazilian pepper tree, thank you. Palm tree. You can still see some of these trees, unfortunately, so we do need to remove more of them, but we removed so many, and we installed over 1,000 native trees during this project. Now we want to do phase 3. So phase 3, we're going to focus on new trails, new connections, more bank stabilization, and we're going to soft bottom the channels. And I'll touch on that a little bit later and kind of explain what that means. Okay, so to kind of put it in perspective, Las Virgenes Road, Lost Hills Road. Our creek comes down this way. This is De Anza Park. So in the picture on the left, you have De Anza Park. On the right, you have the lower gazebo of the trail. We want to increase access between both areas. So we're going to build a mid-block crosswalk with a lot of traffic control devices to make it especially safe. And that way you can now come all the way down, cross, and go down into the Santa Monica Mountains areas. Some bank stabilization that needs to be done, especially with the recent rains. And this is just one area right here. This is all throughout the creek. So we need to go in, repair, and find which areas are susceptible and try to prevent it from happening again. And finally, our concrete channels. So we removed the concrete channel that was north of Agora. We still have 2. One is at Meadow Creek Lane, one is at Lost Hills. And right now they're there to support the road. We still need these concrete structures to support the road. So what we want to do is take out the bottom. So leave the supporting structure, but take out the bottom and renaturalize it, just like we did for phase 1. This is still going to require a feasibility study. We're still not 100% sure if we can do this, but that's what we're working towards. And then here's just some quick snippets of our conceptual plan. You can see some of the new trail that we wanted to construct so you can get down closer to the creek. And here are concrete channel areas. The overall goals is to renaturalize the creek, improve our water quality, remove our final fish barriers, because those 2 concrete channels are actually identified by Heal the Bay as 2 fish barriers remaining in the creek. Improve recreation, more recreation access, and then maintenance of the creek. We've done city events. We have city events coming up. We've done some creek cleanups. We've actually removed a car from the creek. And then we've done tree planting along the creek. And last month we started doing our creek tours, and we're going to be doing those a few times a year to show everybody our beautiful creek. So what can you do? That's why we're all here. We want to know what we can do to make our environment so much better. So the first thing I want to do is encourage you to explore. We have so much natural space around us. It is so incredible. We are so lucky. So go out and explore, but maybe not when the creek looks like this. Try to stay away from the creek a little bit. Stay safe. We're going to have a lot of future workshops and tours. Come out, make a presence, talk to us about it, get to know the project, tell us what you think about the project, provide comments at environmental commission meetings, council meetings. We want to hear what you have to say. And then finally, write letters of support for the project.
Good evening, I'm Christine Renaud, and I'm founder of Poison Free Calabasas. And many of you I know, and just wanted to talk about, there's so many different programs and everything that you have, but I'm not hearing anything about the city and the problem with the rodenticides that we continue to have.
Well, we had a forum a few years back where we specifically covered that topic. Today's forum is on these topics, but we're definitely being proactive when it comes to the ARs. Like I say, it's something that we've been talking about in the commission for quite a while. You want to speak about it? Sure. What's that? Yeah, I mean, we did. We made a recent statement at our last meeting specifically talking about that. I mean, our commission is very active and very adamant that we're opposed to, for those who don't know, anticoagulant rodenticides are the poisons that, that people put in those little black boxes to eliminate rats. If we would just close the trash cans, then the rats wouldn't be as pervasive. And we as a commission stand squarely with you. What happens is the rats go in these boxes, they eat the poison, they don't die. They're anticoagulant, so they bleed out, they leave the boxes, they're now easy prey for coyotes, for hawks, for other animals. They get eaten, and now those animals are poisoned. And it goes throughout the whole ecosystem. And what was the product that was it? What was the product that was in the grocery stores? Decon or something? Or yeah, Decon. Don't ever buy Decon. Anyway, I don't want to be talking about this. I want to be talking about the people who are speaking. But we stand squarely with you. Please, let's eliminate the bait boxes.
David,
Yeah.
just a final note on that. Do you believe that we could set up another subcommittee with under?
Let's talk privately about that.
Okay.
But we totally support you on that. Yeah. Let's get some other questions for the people who are speaking.
Hi, you had mentioned there was one veterinarian on staff.
Yes.
Are there animal surgeons on staff? Like, how could there only be one?
He's a man of many talents.
What are
So
the
we-
capacities of the 16 that are taking care of 4,000 animals a year?
Yes, excellent question. So our veterinarian is the one, a DVM, the one who can legally prescribe the medications and do many of these surgeries. But we have anywhere from 3 to 4 full-time wildlife technicians. And wildlife technicians work, hand in hand with the veterinarian. They are virtually the ones that see these animals day after day. So they're the ones that are actually making up these diet, logs for every single animal. They're pulling up medications. They're administering medications. And really, the veterinarian does perform, these kind of rechecks, these, the more complex exams that need to take place. But we're able to divvy things up because our wildlife technicians are so incredibly trained, and then with that, the support of the volunteers that can help kind of take some of that off of their shoulders once they're trained enough to administer medications or feed things. That's more stuff that the technician can do, and then from there, more stuff that the veterinarian can do.
This is a question for both organizations, but particularly for the Hill of the Bay organization. 35 years ago, the Hill of the Bay organization and the Santa Monica Bay Restoration Project, before it was a commission and a foundation, et cetera, they were all working on dealing with the watersheds of the Santa Monica Mountains, of which Melina, in fact, is now a watershed coordinator of the North Santa Monica Bay watersheds. There is a significant project going on in not just the Malibu Lagoon, but also the Topanga Lagoon. They had a workshop on Saturday, and I think they had one last night at the community center. Were there representatives at either of those meetings on Saturday or last night? And what are the plans that Heal the Bay has for working with both watersheds that are significant because they're large, Malibu Creek and Topanga, but there's also watersheds at Trancas, Arroyo Siquite, Yerba Buena, Deer Creek. So those watersheds are a critical part of the interrelationship between the bay and the ocean and all of us who live up here. And the last element is, I heard you mention in your presentation that the Los Angeles River runs to basically San Pedro. It's really Long Beach. Both the San Gabriel River and Rio Hondo join the LA River and go to Long Beach. But at that point, it sounds like Heal the Bay has an interest in water that's coming out of LA and out of the watersheds of LA and going there. So what can we do to work together? Because you're actually in the headwaters where you're sitting right now of the LA River. This is the headwaters of the LA River. So it would be nice to know how we can work together to deal, not just with Calabasas and not just with Heal the Bay, but everything in between.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. In terms of our watershed work and policy that Heal the Bay is involved in, we have a really great group of scientists and policy leaders who are involved in like making sure that there's a representation for Heal the Bay and making sure that we're able to kind of have a voice for our various communities there. In terms of specifically that policy work, Crystal and I are more of the program delivery for volunteers, though we don't have too much insight into specific details at the moment for what our current goals and plans are for the policy team specifically. But feel free to check in with us and we can give you the contact information for those folks on our team who can provide you like specific details in terms of what our next steps are for policy projects that are currently going on with Heal the Bay. In terms of how we can all connect together and making sure that we are doing our, as you mentioned, like we're all connected from like the mountains to the beach, and there's a big gap in between. LA County is huge, so something that we advocate for is making sure that we are educating our communities in terms of what are the big things that are impacting water quality. So whether it's things from like the pollution that is coming out of like cars or like things like oil and things like that that impact our water quality, end up in the runoff that approaches the ocean, or whether it's maybe there's a lot of like trash or items that are found at like the different beach cleanups or different inland park sites. So Heal the Bay is starting to try to move a little bit more inland to support communities in terms of whether it's, we were recently last year had an inland cleanup at the Sepulveda Dam, and kind of just connecting folks that even though we are located at Santa Monica Bay, it's really from the inland sources all the way out to the beach. So cleanups are a great way to get involved and to have an impact on our local communities. Is there anything?
I think the only thing that I was gonna add is I think we would love to engage and work with y'all over here, because yeah, this is the LA River, we got it over here. So but in regards to the watershed coordinators, we do have two at Heal the Bay. I'm pretty sure, I can't say that if they were or weren't at the meeting last night, but I could ask them about it if it wasn't on their agenda. Amazing. Awesome. Perfect. Great.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Gary Burns. I'm actually elected director last year on the Las Virgenes Municipal Board. And you had one thought, Jasmine, you were saying that the NIC ICU is staffed, well, that you have to feed them every 45 minutes or so. Who does that from midnight to 6 a.m. out of your 16 people? That's what I was thinking.
Question. So while we are open 7 days a week, we're not open 24 hours a day. We have home care rehabilitation volunteers that are really putting in a lot of that crucial work for those animals that need that really intensive care. For the birds, thankfully, baby birds, they, when it gets, they really do operate off of, the sunlight. And when it's dark, a lot of them will actually, hunker down, don't need to be fed, even in the wild, by their parents. They don't need to be fed at that time. And we have technicians that are there as early as 7 a.m. so they can get that first feed in as the sun comes up. And, they start getting active again. For our juvenile squirrels, it's a little bit different, where they do actually need some more of those feedings, and our wonderful home care rehab volunteers are the ones that are getting up at 3 a.m. and then again at 5 a.m. It's like having a kid, and and they're putting in that work for that amount of typically a few weeks while those animals need that, and then they get just old enough to a point where they can come to us, where we can take care of those multiple feedings, but they can actually go through the night while nobody is there at the facility.
I call it sleepless in Calabasas.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Priscilla Lee, and I've been involved with environmental issues for a long time. But I loved everybody's presentation tonight. It was very informative and well done. And if the Heal the Bay would please show your phone number so we can quickly get in touch with you without having to go through the wildlife center. And that's one thing. And then second question for you, I might as well say, Recently, something popped up on my phone because I do a lot of Weather Channel information, and it was talking about how that because they have gone so deep in the ocean digging for things like hundreds of miles down, and they have found nuclear tainted ships or whatever, bombs or whatever, and now it's starting to affect the ocean.
I recently heard about this too, and then and also they're finding like barrels of DDT closer to Catalina. They're always finding all these things that are awful. We're paying attention to it. If there's anything that we can do with like research and whatnot, I'm sure we will. If there's any policy things that we can do, right now it's just we do what we can. In regards to that, I think we're just keeping an eye on it. I mean, right now I'll have to double check. I don't know. I don't think it's affecting the water here. Is that another question or maybe an answer?
It's a follow-up question to her. Are you guys testing for radiation? Because the LA Times article about radiation was just like last week or so that they found new barrels with radiation stored on right?
Yes, we aren't yet. We aren't yet. I don't know if we will. Right now, it's just for water quality on bacteria. Yeah, maybe that's outside of our scope. It's outside of our capacity. We would love to be able to do all that we can. Not yet. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. Share us all the stuff, all the questions, all the things you think we should be looking at. We could share it with our science and policy team for sure. Yeah.
Other questions?
Thank you. Great presentation. I'm Ed Albrecht, council member for City Calabasas. And just really simple, for Hilda Bay, I didn't know you had an aquarium underneath the Santa Monica Pier. I mean, this is really great news. It needs to be advertised better, because I want to take our grandkids there. So can you explain or tell us what the hours are?
Yeah, of course. We've actually have been there, celebrated our 20th anniversary last year. So we've been at the Santa Monica Pier for 20 years. Originally, it was a part of UCLA, but now Hilda Bay took over 20 years ago. We're located right underneath the carousel, so right at the beginning of the Santa Monica Pier. Our public hours for public programming are only Wednesday through Sunday at the moment from 12 to 4. So we're open for about a 4-hour period. Every now and then we'll have extended hours. But we really want to be open during that time that families and visitors are able to come in right in the middle of the day. And yeah, there's shark touch tank, there's tide pool touch tank, we have shark presentations, all kind of variety about our local ecosystem and local animals in the area. We really pride ourselves on being a source of information for local animals and local ecosystem, just to be able to provide more like specific information on what's going on around us in the wildlife here in Santa Monica Bay. But yeah, it's a great place to be and a great place to kind of learn a little bit more.
Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday and Sundays, yeah. And we're actually going to be hosting like our very first snail fest, so it'll be all about snails and mollusks and gastropods. That'll be on March 9th and 10th, so you're all invited to join us.
Is entrance from the beach?
So the entrance,
under the pier?
yeah, the entrance is actually on Ocean Front Walk, so it's kind of like where the bike path is. If you park at Lot 1 North, it's basically on the same level as the parking lot, and you'll find us right across from Big Dean's. It's a very popular restaurant on the bike path that you can find
One
us.
more quick question for California Wildlife. Great presentation for both. The emergency number that you had, because things always happen on the weekend. You know, something happens from Friday night to Sunday night. Are you open 24/7?
So we are not
that
open.
Emergency number if somebody finds an animal or something needs some help.
We're not open 24/7 for accepting patients. We typically are open from, I believe, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. to be able to bring in these patients. However, during those hours, the very inconvenient hours when you might find an animal. If you still call that number or even go onto our website, we actually have tips on how to basically just keep the animal in warm, dry, in a quiet place in your house, contained safely in some sort of box, and then being able to bring it over to us in the morning when someone can be in contact with you. And so sometimes they might have to have a little sleepover, but we are able to get them in as soon as we're able to in the morning.
Just a few more questions here.
I want to do a shout out for Heal the Bay's summer camp at the aquarium. Your grandkids are going to love it, I promise. Then I have a question from the California Wildlife Center. I know a lot of sea mammals actually naturally want to hang out at the beach and rest. How can you tell someone the difference between, oh my gosh, this guy's in trouble, we got to come get it, or he's just taking a break?
Yeah, we do get a lot of calls. Like, I was making the joke about the bird thing, but it totally happens, and it happens with the sea lions and elephant seals and such too, where, people see them and they're just like, it's laying there. And we're like, does it look like injured? Can you see anything? Well, they're like, I don't know, it's got its eyes closed. And we're like, it's probably, taking a nap. But still, if members of the public aren't sure, that's why we always say, call our number. We can ask those questions to be able to deuce down, what the situation is and tell that person, oh, you have nothing to worry about. This animal actually seems like it's probably just hanging out, resting, or, oh, what you're telling us might be, a little bit more than that. This animal might be in a situation that's not great. And if we're not sure, we go out and look. We'll go out and assess the situation. We're not always coming back with an animal, but at least we got eyes there on, we got people there looking at the situation and what's going on and can verify there in person, if this animal needs to come with us or if it's doing okay.
Another question.
Oh yes, thank you. Gabor Roslan, just a citizen from around here, but thank you for the presentations and maybe this question and comment to wildlife. There is some pretty big things happening in Agor and Calabasas with the wildlife crossing, and they also have these nice tours similar to what you have around the creek. So I was just wondering if there is some promotion going on. My son actually is doing a fair amount of awareness building in high schools and kids, but is there a broader awareness? It's one of the biggest crossings in the US, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, and thank you to the kids for getting the word out there. So we are actually not directly involved with the building of the wildlife crossing. That's through the National Wildlife Federation as well as the Cougar Conservancy, which is another nonprofit here based in LA. However, like I said, the interconnectedness of all of our organizations, and we are firm supporters of the wildlife crossing. We've been there, seat at the table, having those talks with people as it's been happening, and definitely try to get that word out when we are at these public events as well, and even as just a conversation piece is, hey, have you seen the progress on the wildlife crossing? And by being able to get that information from, was that, oh. Hello? Okay, so that's better. And so even by being able to get the information directly from these sources, from the people that we know that are taking charge, and that we can relay that information from there. And so I know that they do offer those tours of the wildlife crossing as well. And if you haven't been able to get a chance to do that, definitely sign up, go onto their website. You get to go there, and you don't get to actually be on the crossing yet because it doesn't exist yet, but you get to be kind of on the hill of like where it's going to be. You get a lot more in-depth look, and so we are huge supporters of it because obviously these are the animals that we're putting back out there into the community, and that wildlife crossing is going to make sure that many more species are able to not only do well out back in these communities, but spread and be able to go and find new territories out further north too.
As a side note, just so you know, our commission organized one of the tours 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and we plan to do it again. So as she says, definitely sign up. We've got a booth out there. Let us know that you want it, and we're trying to organize tours, Water District, Wildlife Crossing, but love it. I mean, as you say, we've got a wealth of environmental things going on. Humphrey.
I'd like to thank both groups for your presentations. Very informative, and there seem to be a lot of opportunities for volunteering, which I personally appreciate. I'm wondering if you can get together and possibly do a snail rescue. I mean, but a serious question for California Wildlife. Do you ever decide not to conduct a rescue and just let nature take its course?
It depends. Usually it's a safety aspect if they're not going to be able to go and get the animal. And oftentimes, so a big rule that they have when they're rescuing these sea lions or these elephant seals is that they will not go into the water. Once you go into the water, you have lost the game. These animals, that is their territory. They know exactly what to do. We are nothing in the water compared to even a sea lion pup or northern elephant seal pup, which is the majority of these animals that we go out and get. And so there are certain times where, we're trying our best, we're trying out, strategically how to safely get this animal, but if it just doesn't happen, and sometimes the animal, gets away, then we have to know when to call it quits, to make sure that none of our staff or volunteers are getting hurt, and to make sure we're not putting that animal in a really precarious situation where it could get itself even more hurt. Oftentimes, we kind of take note of that, of where that animal is, and might come back the next day. Sometimes members of the public actually call about an animal that ends up being the same animal, and we can go and try again. So sometimes, second time, third time's the charm. But we do have to kind of assess those situations and make sure all parties are staying safe.